Hi everyone, my name is Vicky and I am the Lexis rep here at UF Law. If you have any Lexis questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Today's short video is going to be all about Florida jurisprudence. I'm going to show you how to find it, some tips and tricks, and all of that. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the Florida jurisprudence. If you're not at all familiar with the Florida jurisprudence, it's commonly referred to as Fla Jur, as its abbreviation, and it is a secondary source. If you're not at all familiar with secondary sources, these are great sources to give you background information and to kind of spoon feed you the information without being too bogged down in legalese. You've read cases by now, and you can understand that cases can sometimes be a little hard to comprehend. Secondary sources tend to be a lot easier to digest. So Fla Jur is a secondary source, and I've always found the best way to talk about Fla Jur, to show Fla Jur, to walk you through it is through a research hypothetical. Today's hypothetical is a fun one. I thought we would look into whether a Florida llama farmer who had a llama wander off, which then resulted in the neighbor's cat being injured, if that Florida llama farmer could be charged with negligence. And so this is what like a typical hypothetical would look like. You'd have a question that you need to answer, and you're going to answer that question using sources. And so let's go ahead and dive into Lexis Plus so I can show you how to find Fla Jur there. And so when you first log into Lexis Plus, you're actually brought to our law school homepage. Before we move into the Lexis Plus research platform, I just want to point out, if you scroll down here, you can easily find my contact information, so my name, my email, and my phone number, and you can call or text if you need anything at all. You also have the student reps listed down here. If you ever want to get a hold of one of them, you can just click on their name and you'll see their email address pop up. And then over here on the right are all the upcoming trainings that I'm hosting. These will all be on Zoom this semester versus in person like they have been in the past. So if you ever want to attend any, you can just click on the training topic and the Zoom registration link is right there. But without further ado, let's get back to Fla Jur. So to get to Fla Jur through Lexis, you're going to go to Lexis Plus. To get there, you're just going to click on this red box that says Go to Lexis Plus. All right, so this is the Lexis Plus research homepage. You're going to immediately be brought to the legal research landing page, and this is going to be the landing page that you're going to want to stick to for almost all of your legal research needs. You also have a practical guidance option and a brief analysis. We won't be discussing either of those today. We're going to focus on the legal research aspect. So this is your search bar. This is where you're going to search for a case name, a case citation, a statute, a secondary source, or in this situation, Fla Jur. So to find Fla Jur, I recommend to just start typing it in. So you can see that as I started to type, Lexis has an algorithm that controls the word wheel. The word wheel is what you see below. It kind of guesses what you're typing. And as you're typing, Lexis tries to suggest different things, sources, documents, cases, all of that good stuff, and it can save you a lot of time. So as I started to type out Fla Jur, you can see Florida jurisprudence populated. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And then you're brought to the table of contents for Fla Jur. Now there are a couple ways to navigate this. The first way, and I'm going to be honest, this is not the recommended way, is to just scroll through and try to figure out where your hypo fits. So as I scroll through, I guess I could see my hypo fitting in animals. It could also fit in negligence. Again, scrolling through is definitely not the fastest or most convenient way. What I always recommend doing is going to the search bar and searching for terms. So if you remember our hypo, it had to do with whether the farmer could be, charged with negligence because his llama escaped. So I'm going to definitely search for negligence. And then I also want to incorporate the llama somehow. So I'm going to include the word "and" so that way my results are pulling up both of my search terms. But instead of searching for the word llama, which is a very specific animal, it's not really a domestic animal, it's not really considered livestock, it's just not a word I imagine having specifically in Fla Jur. So I'm going to broaden my search a bit, and I'm going to search for the word animals. That's the search I'm going to run. And to run my search, I'm just going to click on the little magnifying glass. And here's my results list. If I feel like I need to edit my search at all, I can easily do so up here. But what I'm going to do now is focus over here on the left-hand side, the filters. And I'm focusing there because I have 58 different sections of Fla Jur that populated. And I'm never one to just scroll through, 58 results hoping to find the one that fits my needs. So I'm going to go over here to the left, and these little boxes, which are all closed, are filters. So I can open them up and I can add some filters. The first thing that I think I would like to add in this search is a search within results filter. So what this is going to act like is kind of like a micro search. It's a control F throughout all 58 of my sources. So what I really want to know is the requirement of negligence. So I'm going to type in requirement of and add that to my search. And you can see now I've got 12 results to choose from. 12 is still a pretty large number. I don't necessarily recommend just scrolling through all 12 and hoping for the best. But at this point, before I want to go through to add any more filters, I'm going to skim my results just to make sure that I'm on the right path that I want to go down. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to read the titles of the articles. So Fla Jur, animals. So animals that have to do with animals running at large or straying. Okay, that seems on point with my hypo. And then it goes even further to say the requirements of intent, willfulness, carelessness, or negligence. That seems very much on point with my hypo. So I'm actually going to go ahead and open up this Fla Jur article. And so this is what Fla Jur looks like on Lexis. Before I get into all of the fun details and tips and tricks, I do just want to point out the highlighting. So hopefully you can see on my screen that the search terms that I searched for are highlighted. So I searched animals, requirement of, negligence, and you can see that that highlighting carries through the document. This is meant to just help you guys out. So if you haven't looked at secondary sources, sometimes they can be, fairly long documents. And this way you can scan the document to see where your search terms appear. So you're not focusing on what could be an irrelevant part of the document. So I'm just going to scroll up. So on the left-hand side, you have a few options. You can save things to folders, and you can organize your folders any way you choose. If you're doing an open research assignment, I definitely recommend utilizing folders. They can save you a lot of time. You can also print, cases, statutes, whatever it may be. You can email, so you can email these to yourself. You can download them to your computer, and you can even add them to Dropbox. And so these icons are going to be on pretty much everything on Lexis, and so you can always save things to folders and all of that good stuff. Right below that, you'll see a box that says Table of Contents. And so that box is generally closed, but you can open it up, and you'll actually see the articles right before the one that you're on and right after. This is a great tool to use if you're near the spot that you are trying to research, but you're not quite there. Because generally, if you're close, it's going to be in this proximity. And so I'm in requirement of negligence, which is very much on point. But I could also foresee this going even further to a liability for damage by trespassing animals, because my llama did escape and it did hurt the neighbor's cat. So this can be a very useful tool to use. And when you're done with it, you can just close Table of Contents, and that way you'll see the About This document section. We'll get into that in just a second, but I do want to highlight a couple things within the article of Fla Jur. So here's the actual wording of the article. It starts right here with "in order for an owner," and it goes on further. So you may not have really gotten into this yet, but secondary sources are great for you to use to get that background information. If you're not quite familiar with an area of law, you're not sure where to start, things like that, secondary sources are going to save you so much time. But generally speaking, we don't like to cite to secondary sources for authority. We would much rather cite to a primary source. And so all of the words you see here, these are all words from a secondary source. But if you like something, if something seems like it's important or of value to you, just look for these little green boxes that have the letter N and then a number. Those are our footnote boxes. So if I'm reading through this and I see footnote number 8 being particularly helpful, which says that the defendant must carry the burden to show that the animal was astray due to the owner's intentional negligent conduct, I wouldn't want to cite to this Fla Jur article. What I would want to do is click on N8 to bring me to footnote number 8, and it will bring me just down the document to my footnote section. And so that section that I just read from is from the tool case, and that tool case is actually referring to this specific Florida statute. And we'll dive into both of these in just a second. But before we do that, I am going to talk about topic summaries. And so topic summaries are a great tool to use, and I definitely recommend looking to see if your secondary sources, your cases, anything like that have topic summaries listed. If it does, I recommend clicking on View Reports. And so the topic summary report linked to that Fla Jur article has to do with strict liability. Now, you might not have gotten into this yet within your classes, but strict liability and negligence are a little bit different, and I really want to focus on negligence right now. And so to find negligence, what you're going to want to do is go over here to the topic index, and then you'll see a few different theories of liability: breach of warranty, misrepresentation, and negligence. So you're going to want to click negligence. And then for actions for negligence, you're just going to want to go down to View Topic Summary Report. And this is a very helpful tool. So the topic summary reports are kind of like everything that you would need to know about negligence in one place. And these default to federal. You can make them state specific by just going over here to other jurisdictions, and you can see a state specific one. The nice thing about topic summary reports is that it gives you the definition of what, in this instance, negligence means, and the primary source, so in this instance, a case that the definition came from. And so if I wanted to use this definition, I would just want to make sure that I'm citing to this primary case. Up next, we have seminal cases, and you can even view more. If you're not familiar with the term seminal cases, these are just the most commonly cited two cases in regard to this area of law. And again, these are going to be federal cases because I'm in the federal jurisdiction. If you wanted state-specific cases, you'd want to make it state-specific. You also have elements listed, so if there are any elements you need to prove, and in this instance, you have 3 different elements that would need to be proved, and you also have the case where these elements were listed. You have any statutes and rules, more secondary sources, if there's a burden of proof, standards of review, and again, this is nice because the primary sources are listed for you. And so this can be a very helpful tool to look at, and it can save you a lot of time. If you're working on an open research assignment and you know that you're going to be coming back to like what negligence is often, I definitely recommend saving this to a folder so you can find it easily. Otherwise, you'd have to go to the secondary source and then topic index, and you'd have to do that again. So I definitely recommend saving this to a folder because it can be very helpful in the future. Let's go ahead and jump back to that Fla Jur article. And to do so, I'm going to use my history button. And so the history button will show me my searches, but also the documents that I've opened. And so I'm going to jump back to the Fla Jur Animals section 62. And I'm going to go back to that footnote number 8 that was so helpful earlier. So to get there, I can either scroll down, or again, I can just click this N8 and I'm brought right here. So the first thing that it cites to is a case. So I'm going to just open this up quickly so you can see what a case looks like on Lexis. You have the case name and the shepherd symbol. We'll get into shepherds later in the semester, but to just give you an idea of the symbol that you're seeing next to the case name, if you haven't heard the phrasing by now, is this still good law? Has this been overturned? And things like that. Shepherds is a great indicator of that treatment. So just because you read a case for class doesn't mean everything that you're reading is still good law. It could mean that some of those issues you're reading have been overturned, overruled, held unconstitutional, and things like that. And so the symbol next to the case name will give you an idea of the treatment of your case. But again, we'll get more into that later. But when you're looking at a case on Lexis, there are some helpful tools. If you scroll down, you'll see you have a case summary, which breaks the case up into 3 parts: the judicial history, the facts and issue, and then the holding. And then you also have headnotes, which can help you navigate the case easily, and they're word for word from the opinion. So if you want to cite to any of these headnotes, you easily can. All right, I'm going to go back to that Fla Jur article. And now I'm going to open this statute that this case was referring to. All right, so when we were looking at Fla Jur, which was a secondary source, we were still able to find a topic summary report that listed a lot of primary sources for us. We were also able to find a case, which we just looked at, that was on point, and cases are primary sources, which is great. And now we have a statute that we're going to dive into, which is another primary source that we can cite to. We're not going to dive into the statute in this video. If you're watching these videos in sequence, the next video is all about Florida statutes, and we're actually going to be talking about this statute. And so this is a great leaving off point. I do just want to point out again that by going to the law school homepage, You can find my contact information right there, so if you ever need to get a hold of me, please don't hesitate. Thank you all for listening to this training about Fla Jur. If you're interested in attending any of the upcoming trainings, like I said, they're on Zoom, and you can find the registration links on the homepage. But here's a list of the dates, times, and topics of all the upcoming Fall 2020 trainings. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.